And we will now, let's now welcome Stephen Ohan, Global Leader of Insurance of PricewaterhouseCoopers. And he'll talk about the importance of the customer-centered design as an instrument to be able to achieve financial inclusion in insurance. He's been working for Pricewaterhouse for 32 years. He started his career working for Prudential, then he worked for Merrill Lynch and Northwestern Mutual Life, and he worked as global relationships partner for Global Insurance Group. He's now part of the board and the financial committee, International Committee for Insurance. So we hope you enjoy this presentation. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Good day, everybody, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm thrilled to be in Bogota today. I'm sorry I'm going to have to do this in English. I hope that's okay. I love being in this part of the world. You know, I live in Munich, and I just moved there after 6 years in Zurich, and the streets of Europe are quiet. And you come to Latin America, and I was in Brazil the last 3 days, in Bogota today. There's a buzz in these streets that's really energizing. And this is where the growth of the global insurance industry is. Congratulations to all you're doing to foster that environment. What I want to share with you today is a little bit about, how do I advance this, Alejandro? There we go. What I want to share with you today are some perspectives on customer centricity and the importance of customer centricity in making insurance relevant to the financial inclusion agenda, okay? And for centuries, this industry has been all about reimbursing loss. That's been the primary purpose of the insurance sector, to be there when something bad happens. And that's a very noble cause and fantastic for society. But as Carlos presented an hour ago, the technology changes in this industry are massive. And that opens up new doors for the insurer to be relevant to the prevention of loss like we've never been before. That's the tendency, the movement from reimbursing loss to the prevention of loss. And I want to reflect on that and the importance of customer centricity in furthering this important agenda. As was discussed on a number of occasions this morning, the protection gap in the global world continues to expand. As you can see from these two red lines, over the last 35 years, total losses have increased, insured losses have increased by a lesser extent, and the gap has widened dramatically. And the Insurance Development Forum, which is a consortium of the world's leading global insurers and the United Nations and the World Bank, estimates that today 90% of the economic risk associated with hazards are uninsured. Insurance has a huge opportunity to close that protection gap. But what's critical, what's absolutely critical, is that you think about products that are really tailored to the needs of your customers. Okay? I've seen some excellent microinsurance products in one part of the world, transported to another part of the world, and fail miserably because they aren't adequately designed for the needs of the customers in the local market. Think about their needs, think about their risks, and tailor your products accordingly. The sustainable development of the insurance sector allows people to get on your feet. It restores normalcy. And I totally agree with Sergio's point that was just made. There's nothing more important than the claims process. We are living in a world where the interaction between the insurance company and the customer is by and large a once-a-year interaction, or a once a quarter, once a month. You send them a premium bill and you get paid. And you send them a bill sometime later and you get paid. And when there's an insured event and a claim filed, it's hugely impactful to the perception of the insured, of the insurer and of the community of the insurance industry. How you respond to a claim is everything to developing confidence in the sector. And that's especially true in the areas of the world that are most vulnerable and where that trust is still being earned. And insurance as an institution has to earn that trust. You're in the business of paying claims. And the more difficult you make the claim process, the less trust you earn from the customer. When you bicker over small print terms, or you take shortcuts on the calculation of the claim, nothing undermines confidence more than a difficult claims process. The best insurers in the world are there when their customers need them most. Beyond reimbursing loss, I really liked the story about the woman in the shoe store in Peru. The woman was, because of insurance and her cognizance about what insurance costs, she understood that changing the pipes reduced her risk. Okay? That dialogue with the insurance industry enables the customer to understand their risks better than they ever have before. What a fantastic social contribution you're making. More than just reimbursing loss, making people wise to the risks that they're exposed to and their own mechanisms for minimizing that loss. 2015 was a milestone year in the sustainability agenda of this planet. The Sendai Risk Agreement and the Paris Accord were monumental intergovernmental agreements. The sustainability agenda of the United Nations is arguably puts forth a very ambitious set of 17 developmental goals for 2030, okay? And arguably, insurance is relevant to every one of these 17 developmental goals. But I've chosen to structure this conversation around the 6 where I think insurance is particularly impactful in driving forward a sustainability agenda. The first one I want to reflect on is the ambition to end poverty. 4 billion people on this planet live on less than $4 a day. And as you guys know, and it has been discussed readily here this morning, the role of microinsurance in providing protection and raising that ambition to end poverty is critical. The one advice I would give on the microinsurance agenda is to, as you develop product tailored to your customers, that you resist the temptation to tailor products to each and every customer. Offer them modular products. Offer them generic products with building blocks of a limited number of options. But take a lesson from the Europeans and the Americans who have gone before you on this journey, who spent the last 25 years customizing product to each customer. Today, they're realizing that was a huge mistake. It's too costly to process, there's operational risk, and it prevents digitalization. The more you've customized your products, the less you're enabled to really communicate digitally with your customers. I was in the Czech Republic last month, which not too long ago was an emerging market. The CEO of one of the companies said they have 500 different products. They're on a journey to get that down to 15, okay? They've gone to all their customers and they've said, these little bells and whistles that we've agreed to with you over the last 25 years, we're taking those away. Here's your choices, okay? You get 15 choices. There was a lot of complaining, a lot of squawking, but no customers left. Your customers will sign up for simple modular products. You don't need to give risk and cost to yourself and minimize your digital capabilities. Every global insurer in one way, shape, or form is involved in a microinsurance agenda. I think that I was reading Allianz's annual report on Friday, and they talk about 250 million euros annually of microinsurance premium to 58 million customers. That means less than €5 per customer per year. And by their own admission, generally means one product per customer. Okay? Generally, in their case, life with an aspiration for more P&C, or property and health. But the insurers, the global insurers today, are really doing this, A, because it's the right thing to do, and I really believe that. But secondly, they're clearly investing for the future. They see the opportunities in the emerging world that doesn't exist in quiet Europe and the US. Today, Latin America and Asia and Africa look a lot like Asia did 25 years ago. I was living there at the time, and we were having these types of conversations. Today, when you look at the market cap of the 10 most valuable insurers, 5 are solely Asian companies. Obviously, they've got a 2 billion person China to pursue. But they've done a great job at making themselves relevant to the growth of insurance in Asia. And the 5 who aren't Asian companies have significant Asian agendas. The other part, though, in addition to simply reimbursing loss, the technology is enabling insurers, as I said earlier, to be active in the prevention of loss. And the example I would cite is the vast majority of consumers today would gladly put a sensor in their car or in their home if it meant reducing their insurance premiums. Okay? By putting a sensor in a home, the insurer can monitor that the wiring is working properly. If they detect a problem, they can send in a repair team while you're at work, have it repaired before something goes wrong, a loss is incurred, and they need to reimburse that loss. Active in the prevention of loss. Technology is enabling that. Think about the applications of that in the microinsurance world. Insurance helping to end hunger. My daughter lives in India, and she works for an organization called Digital Green. They're all about distributing nutrition-related messages to the farmers of rural India. And she tells me how careful they are about how those messages are packaged to the most vulnerable people in the world. She said they recruit local, trusted citizens and make little videos for the farmers of rural India about advancements in agricultural techniques, about the benefits of fertilizer. Because when the chances for success are 95%, what that farmer in rural India sees is a 5% chance of losing his farm, losing his livelihood, losing all food source. They are scared to death of taking risk. And how you communicate to that part of the world is critical to your relevance. Customer centricity is tailoring your messaging and educating them along the way. Crop insurance, there was just a new crop insurance program announced last week in India, a public-private partnership. Even today, crop insurance in the US is shared jointly between the private insurance sector and the US government. There's a really interesting crop study in Ghana where microinsurance studies have found that those farmers in Ghana who had microinsurance over their farmstead were much more likely to invest in agricultural equipment and fertilizer than those who didn't. Insurance is about increasing confidence, giving people the sense that they can move things forward without being afraid. Crop insurance is a great example. there's no better example of insurance promoting healthy lives and well-being than AIA's business in Malaysia, where their entire business model is about giving out Fitbits to every policy owner. They monitor those Fitbits and give bonus points, small gifts to policyholders for good behavior, okay? Sleep, eat, diet, exercise, low stress, and higher premiums to those who exhibit bad behavior, okay? They're shaping their book, and at the same time, they're incenting a quality of life. Think about that. Think about that. We as insurance sector have provided social relevance by reimbursing loss. Now we're incenting a quality of life. What an awesome mandate. Understanding the gender differences in your risk pool, I think, is absolutely critical. Women, by their motherhood responsibilities and their in-home chores in the most vulnerable parts of this world, often have little opportunity to accumulate assets, yet they often outlive their spouse. And the insurance industry, in addressing those needs, needs to realize the different risk between men and women. In Europe, there's a regulatory direction against gender-based pricing, and it's, in my view, somewhat unfortunate because of what it's meant is higher premiums for women. It's not meant lower premiums for men. But women are generally lower risk, and for a lot of years, the industry in the US and Europe has recognized that, and today it's viewed as somewhat discriminatory against men. But I think that being cognizant of that different risk profile and reflecting that in your risk assessment and pricing can really be beneficial to your customer centricity agenda. Sustainability development goal number 8. Sustainable growth and employment. Nothing is of more importance. After a calamity, the first thing people look for is food and shelter, the basics, okay? But as soon as that's addressed, people want to get back to work. The self-esteem associated with work, the self-esteem associated with generating income is critical toward restoring a sense of normalcy. And it's absolutely critical in that moment how you handle the claim and how quickly you can help people get back on their feet. The same is true in disaster-related areas affected by weather. How the insurance industry responds is absolutely critical. The best example I can cite of this is in 2011, in the wake of the Fukushima tsunami in Japan. The insurance industry sent buses of people from Tokyo up to Fukushima, thousands of people, to aid with the claim assessment process. This was a multi-billion US dollar disaster, and 80% of the claims were paid within 10 weeks. The insurance industry realized why it was in business, and it went about restoring normalcy to the people of the Fukushima area. At the time, the Japanese insurance industry was going through some very difficult public relations perceptions. There was a number of life company failures, and since this behavior in 2011 that restored this confidence, the insurance industry's been on a renaissance. How you respond to claims, what you do in a moment that matters, is absolutely critical. There's a significant role in this sustainability agenda for public-private partnerships. And the Insurance Development Forum, as I said earlier, is probably 15 or 20 of the leading insurers, plus the World Bank, plus the United Nations, aimed at protecting people and, most importantly, building resilience. The The parties need to work together to develop customer confidence in the insurance network. Government has a role, regulators have a role, the insurers have a role, and consumers have a role. And how you work together develops that confidence on the part of the consumer. Nothing would undermine the growth and development of an insurance industry than unreliable claims, excess commissions, hiding behind small print. The parties need to work together to develop that trust and earn the respect of the consumer. As Carlos cited earlier, the technology developments in this industry are accelerating at an amazing rate, particularly changing customer behavior and the speed of technological change. This is a graph that depicts input from our PwC's Global CEO Survey. Okay? Every year in Davos at the World Economic Forum, we survey the global CEOs on a number of key matters. This year's survey had 1,300 CEOs, 100 from the insurance sector. What this year's survey showed is that the insurance sector was the third most disrupted sector in the global economy. In 2017, insurance was the most disrupted sector in the global economy. This year, we've been passed by entertainment and media and communications, which is entirely logical when you think about how differently we're watching movies and listening to music than we did just a few years ago. But what this technology disruption enables is the opportunity for a much more interactive model between the insurance industry and its customers. I talked earlier that we've all grown up in a model where you pay your premium once a year, or once a quarter, whatever the frequency is, and the insurer is there when the claim is necessary, okay? What the current technology enables is a much more real-time interaction between the consumer and the insurer, okay? And a perfect example of that is ZhongAn, okay? ZhongAn is a 4-year-old insurance company in China set up in 2014. They have 700 million customers and 7 billion policies. Okay? Now, they're selling to a rapidly emerging middle class in China, but that's not the point. The point is their entire business model is based upon the consumer deciding what they want covered, loading it into an app on the mobile phone, and whether it's their car, their scooter, their bicycle, their camera, their golf clubs, and as they decide to use those items, they hit a toggle switch and the insurance starts, and they bring their car home, they put it in a parking spot, they toggle the insurance off, and the premium stops flowing. Okay? A much more real-time interaction between the customer and the insurer. Think about that. Think about the advances in technology enabling that kind of communication. Technology is absolutely improving access, and in all honesty, folks, I would argue that it's advancing at a much faster rate in the emerging world than it is in let's say Europe. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, I think consumer comfort with transacting over mobile technology is much greater in the emerging world than it is in Europe. I even noticed when I got here that the speakers at this event are connected by WhatsApp. Okay? I mean, that seems basic to you guys, I'm sure. To a European, we aren't doing that, right? It's either email or paper. But it's a perfect example of using technology for a lot more than the Europeans are used to. Number one, much more consumer comfort with mobile technology. Number two, no legacy systems. You're starting off building an insurance sector without the burden of 20, 40, 60-year-old legacy systems that need to be updated. That antiquated network of policy administration is slowing down dramatically the digital agenda in the US and Europe. And thirdly, and really importantly, is the emerging world generally has a much more accommodating regulatory environment looking to foster the growth and prosperity of a private insurance industry. In Europe, we spend a lot of time talking about IT security and data privacy, but the regulatory environment here is about fostering the relationship between the policy owner and the insurer, and I think you absolutely ought to take advantage of that. So it's technology to not only improve access, but to prevent loss as well. In my travels, I really want to use this slide to just congratulate all of you for what you're doing here. I hear a lot of examples as I travel around the global insurance market about the exceptional microinsurance efforts in Colombia. And congratulations to Fasicola and all of you for a conference like this that gets people together to talk about this agenda and to what you're doing for the most vulnerable people in your market. And the example that comes up over and over again is Colombia is moving this agenda ahead. So that's a fantastic thing. Thank you all for that. And that concludes my thoughts. I'd be happy if we've got time to take any questions. Do we have time? So I'd be happy to, I can put a headset on and hear a Spanish question or two. If anybody has any, I'd be happy to entertain.
Abrimos el espacio para preguntas. Tenemos 10 minutos para preguntas. Aquí adelante hay una.
So we have questions up front. Let's see if this works. Good morning. Do you know of any experience in which the state, being the promoter to come to the segment of development of inclusive insurance, has put itself in the shoes of understanding what's the structure of getting there at such a high cost, and that the government has made decisions like cutting taxes in order to facilitate your reaching out to these lower segments?
Excellent question. I think the incentives that we see governments making are more not so much about reaching particular segments as they are incenting innovation, whether it's tax credits or real estate opportunities. But what they're doing is incenting innovation with the expectation that innovation will allow the insurer to reach these most vulnerable people more readily. Okay? I'm not aware, and I'd be curious if anybody else was, of a specific example where governmental accommodation was made either in the form of tax breaks or something else to an insurer trying to reach a particular segment, okay? The incentives that I'm aware of are much more about creating innovation, facilitating a digital connectivity to the customer, incentives for telecom companies and insurers to work together. Okay, there's examples of that, Singapore in particular, all right, that has allowed access into Indonesia, for example. But that's as far as I've seen them go.
Thank you very much for this very interesting presentation, also flagging the role of insurance for sustainable development, which is really important. However, I'd like to put you a little bit on the hot seat because I have some question marks in your presentation. One is, you said, yeah, billions live below $4 a day, but this is still not what the industry is addressing. We have seen examples from Hollard. $4 a day is 120 per month. So this is not, sorry, Mark, if I put you on the seat there, it's not the clientele that they're addressing yet. So there's still a long way to go until we really address the low-income market, but it's good that we at least start with the mid-income market because we're still not addressing that.
Yep.
My question is around the what you mentioned, like the Blue Marbles and the Insurance Development Forum. I personally much rather believe in companies like Pacifico or Hollard or being here on the ground.
Yep.
And correct me if I'm wrong, give me some insights of what Blue Marble and the Insurance Development Forum has really achieved since they're active.
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen much there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that by their own admission, they've been less successful than they would like to be. There's no question. I 100% agree with the notion that the best way to service the most vulnerable are local insurers developing that local market. Okay, that's absolutely the right answer. All right, I mean, you know, when I look at what has happened in Asia, it's been the local insurers. Now, some of them had global parents, but it's Ping An, it's China Life, it's AIA. Those are the people who have figured out how to service best the local markets. The global insurers all aspire to it, but they're not making the inroads they are. It's the insurers in this room, and I just cited Allianz, Blue Marble, and a number of others because I wanted to paint the picture for you that this topic gets so much conversation on the global agenda, and everybody's talking about it because everybody sees it as their future, okay? But I would fully subscribe to the notion that the best way to service these people is local insurers aided by local regulators in the local market. Absolutely.
Here's
Yes.
right here.
Okay.
As a global viewer, you were saying about a slide about how insurance can help the well-being. Remember, there was a point, probably was too fast, but
Sorry.
I see that we can play an important role, a leader role in the health ecosystem, and improve the well-being.
Yes.
I don't know what's your opinion about it, and if you have a reference case that probably you can pinpoint and we can go and look at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the best example I can cite of insurance being used to improve well-being is the example I gave around AIA in Malaysia. But AIA in Malaysia is simply using the Vitality platform that South African insurer Discovery launched. And it's being licensed now in various markets around the world. What I would do is go look at the Vitality platform of South African insurer Discovery and look at the advances in well-being that have been aided by their efforts to try to drive healthy behavior in policy owners. Okay? Yes?
Hi, Catherine Pulvermacher, Executive Director, Microinsurance Network. I'd like to build on Dirk's comments and question and point out that there are global insurers who are in the room who are actually playing in this space. And a prime example of this is, of course, AXA. So there are many models in which the global insurers can get involved in this space, but there is something that intrigues me, and that is we have heard many times through these couple of days, and I hear many times as I go to events like this around the world and engage with our many members, that partnership is the way forward, and partnership is, of course, Sustainable Development Goal number 17. Yet several efforts to reach out to IDF and Blue Marble and include them in the microinsurance network umbrella have proved very unsuccessful. Are you aware of a reason for this, or wouldn't it be better for everybody to be collaborating to ensure maximum output?
Yeah, I'm disappointed to hear that. I'm disappointed to hear that because, yeah, absolutely. There is, the customer is best served by a collaborative environment, whether the insurers are global or local, working with the industry, working with the regulators, working with communities is absolutely critical to this overall agenda. And I am disappointed to hear that if you've reached out to the Insurance Development Forum, for example, that there hasn't been a warm embrace, because they are really all of, and listen, they have not advanced their agenda anywhere near as quickly as they wanted to. Okay, they were set up 2 or 3 years ago, and while their mission has not changed, I think the pace of their efforts have not been what they wish it was either. But I do think there's an opportunity, especially when you consider, I mean, the World Bank and the United Nations really want to see the IDF be all-inclusive and not limited to 15 insurers. Absolutely. Yes.
Me gustaría, I would like to make 2 questions about your presentation. One has to do with the linkage of insurance with fighting poverty in the millennium targets. I don't understand how is it that insurance can support the reduction of poverty. And I certainly think that that's almost impossible. Why? Because insurance covers certain risks, certain particular risks that may be brought to a market of companies that offer those services, while poverty is a set of vulnerabilities that cannot be narrowed down to 1 or 2 particular risks, but rather to many, many different risks faced by people. And my second comment has to do with, well, this morning it was unbelievable to hear the topic regarding digital inclusion, and I was marveled at all the progress that insurance can have by using all these new technologies. But the poor people that I work with are digitally excluded. So what can we do in order to bridge that gap between these novel things that can be done through digital inclusion, but then you have this absence of digital inclusion in the poorer ones?
Okay, on your first point about insurance relevant to the ending of poverty, I wouldn't suggest for a minute that insurance alone is the solution to poverty, okay? However, what insurance does is it enhances the confidence of farmers, of store owners, to take risks, to build their farm, to invest in enhanced agricultural techniques, to invest in fertilizer. By raising the confidence of the farming communities, farmers' yield is enhanced, farmers' income is enhanced, and food production is increased. That's by the restoration and the enhancement of confidence, the insurance industry is contributing, and it only is contributing to the increased availability of food and the end of poverty. Okay? All right? Now, is that helpful? Not really? Kind of. Sorry. All right. I'm with you totally on the we've talked a lot in this environment about the technology change and the digital connectivity with the customers. Okay, I think that and you know the vulnerable people that you're speaking to much better than I, but basic mobile phones can be used to deliver very basic messaging about behaviors, lifestyle behaviors, risk behaviors. You know, like the example I gave of my daughter's efforts to communicate with the farmers of rural India. Okay, you know, the mobile technology, their mobile phone, I don't know how many have mobile phones. I guess my guess is very few. But they've found ways to distribute messaging that makes them wise to risk, that makes them alert to the minimization of risks and the enhancement of, in that particular case, agricultural techniques to improve farmer yield and farmer income. So it isn't necessarily smartphones in the hands of the most vulnerable, but it's increasingly leveraging technology to reach those people. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm out of time? Oh, sorry. All right. Sorry. Thank you very much for having me here.